And welcome to Be Less Stupid, the show for people interested in knowing how the world really works. And a quick favor before we begin, if you enjoy the show, please like our Facebook page. That way you'll get new episodes in your timeline 2 or 3 times a week. And if you think your friends will like the show, please share it with them. Thank you very much. That message was brought to you by the Facebook share button. So, on this episode, why your memory sucks, plus why you can recall nearly every detail of the first porno you ever saw 30 years ago, but 2 minutes later, you can't remember that your spouse asked you to take the trash out. We begin with facts from the big countdown of facts you should know, but probably don't. So, I forget stuff, a lot. Not important stuff, like to close my browser when my kids come into my office, or where I was when I heard that Dr. Ben Carson dropped out of the presidential race. I read it on my phone while I was on the toilet, in the bathroom at the mall. The one by the Wetzel's Pretzels, not the one by the food court. That one smells like a cat's ass. Anyway, when I'm in the shower, I sometimes forget if I washed my hair. I always forget people's names I just met. And last week, I forgot to bring muffins home to my wife and my kids, even though my wife had called me just like 15 minutes before I got home. So I wanted to know how I could forget something like that after, quite frankly, just really a few minutes. My wife thinks it's because I'm a thoughtless jerk, but I think that that's only part of it. To understand, let me rewind just a bit. When my wife called for the muffins, I was stuck in traffic. It was raining, and in LA, when it rains, people drive like they're being shot at. It was dark out. The road was slick. There was an accident in the opposite lane. I got the radio on. Plus, I'm trying to get the trucker next to me to honk his horn. And by the way, that is not a euphemism. So, when the phone rings, my brain has to simultaneously concentrate on driving, calibrate my speed as it relates to the distance between me and the car in front of me, yell, "Fuck you!" at the asshole in the Prius who just cut me off. I have to look for my exit. I have to cope with all of my stress. My brain has to keep me awake. All the while I'm singing, "Dancing on the Ceiling." Look, I like Lionel Richie, ironically. At least that's what I tell myself. Only here's the thing. Our brains, like a one-armed juggler, are not equipped to do multiple tricks simultaneously and to do them all well. Now, more on that in just a bit. But first, the brain stores various types of information differently. Visual information is stored more deeply in the brain, in more locations, so it's easier to recall because of the many associations and connections that we're able to make. That's why you remember every scene, every camera angle, every position in the first porno that you ever saw. Even what kind of pizza the female star had delivered. And yet, you can't remember even one thing you talked about the night that you lost your virginity, or even how much you paid. Each detail that you remember leads to more neurological connections, which leads to remembering even more details. On the other hand, if I tell you about a porno and then ask you about it later, you'll have a harder time remembering the details, unless you're a real sicko, a real pervert. The point is that information communicated to us audibly, like my wife's muffin request, or a phone number, is typically stored in our short-term memory. It's a place to keep stuff you need to remember for just a few minutes or even less than that. And more importantly, it doesn't get transferred to long-term storage. So it's more likely that you're going to forget it and forget it even more quickly. Anyway, back to the muffins. Since visual information is more likely to be recalled, my wife, if she really wanted to help me remember the muffins, she should have texted me a picture of the muffins while I was driving and kept doing it until I responded. Or she got a call from the paramedics. Also, my wife could just leave me alone while I'm driving home, and my kids can eat cereal, which is also delicious. Okay, and now it's time for you to play along at home. We've got some experiments here for you to try that I think you'll find pretty interesting. I want you to see how our brains are not designed to do multiple things simultaneously. In just a moment, I'm going to put up a 7-digit number on the screen. You look at it for 10 seconds. Then, after 10 seconds, I'll put up 5 7-digit numbers, one of which will be the original sequence of numbers. You decide which was the original sequence. Okay, here goes. Here's the first 7-digit number. And now, here are the choices for you to pick from. My guess is that was pretty easy, right? You probably picked C, and that's the right answer. Now, let's try the same experiment one more time. Only after I show you the new 7-digit number, I want you to say the alphabet backwards in your head. And then we'll see if you can recall the original sequence. Okay, here goes. Here is the 7-digit number. And now I want you to say the alphabet backwards in your head. And now, here are the choices for you to choose from. Pick one of these sequences as the original sequence of numbers that you just saw. That's a lot harder, right? Did you choose A? I'm kidding. It was E. The thing is that your brain is trying to do two things simultaneously. Put the sequence of numbers into short-term storage while also trying to recall the alphabet backwards. You see, you can't do it. Anyway, let's try this one more time. Only instead of numbers, this time I'm going to show you a set of emojis for 10 seconds. Then, after you see the emojis, say the alphabet backwards. You ready? And go. All right, now say the alphabet backwards. Okay, now, which of the groups below contain only emojis that you saw in the original sequence? Anyway, this one was probably a lot easier, right? You probably chose group B. And as you can see, the images were easier to recall than the numbers were. Anyway, that's it for us on this episode of Be Less Stupid. Please like our Facebook page so you'll get Be Less Stupid in your timeline 2 or 3 times a week. And remember, if you like it, to please share it with your friends. That's how we spread the good word. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time on Be Less Stupid.